didn't blow it up. The city didn't gather to watch it fall. There was no broadcast, no meteorologist counting down in front of a live shot. Excavators just showed up on a Tuesday morning in May and quietly started pulling apart 53 years of Bill's history, one seat at a time. Just machines and men and the slow, methodical dismantling of a place that meant everything to an entire region. What they found inside is exactly what you'd expect from Bill's Mafia. The old Highmark Stadium opened in 1973 as Rich Stadium, named after a dairy products company. That's Buffalo for you. Even the naming rights have a certain unglamorous honesty about them. $22 million to build. You could barely construct a luxury apartment building in Manhattan for that today. The new stadium going up directly across Abbott Road cost $2.2 billion. Same fan base, different tax bill, different era, different everything except the people sitting in the seats. The Bills played their first game there on August 17, 1973, won 9-7 over the Jets. O.J. Simpson ran for over 120 yards. That detail aged in a very specific way. The crowd that day had no idea what was coming, good and bad. They didn't know about the Super Bowls yet. They didn't know about the comebacks. They didn't know they were standing in a building that would become, for better and for worse, the center of their sports universe for the next half century. They just knew they had a winning football team and a new stadium and a Sunday afternoon. That's enough. That's always been enough in Buffalo. Inside those walls, the Bills became the first team in NFL history to appear in 4 consecutive Super Bowls. 1991 through 1994. 4 straight years. Wearing their iconic red helmets, running the K-gun no-huddle offense that defensive coordinators had no answer for, with Jim Kelly slinging it to Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas running through gaps that shouldn't have existed, with Bruce Smith destroying offensive lines from the outside in. They lost all 4. The 1991 loss to the Giants on Scott Norwood's field goal that sailed wide right and still haunts every person who grew up in Western New York. The 1992 loss to the Redskins by 37 points. Back-to-back losses to the Cowboys after that. And through all of it, the stadium sold out every single game, every single season. Even after Norwood's kick, even after the 3rd loss, even after the 4th. That's Buffalo. You don't leave, you don't give up, you show up louder next year. Before the stadium was built, the site was a former DuPont explosives storage and testing area. That's not a metaphor, that's just what it was. Kids from South Buffalo used to go out there and let beagles chase rabbits across the open fields. Flat land on the edge of Orchard Park. Nothing dramatic about it, nothing that suggested what it would become. Went from a field where beagles chased rabbits to the loudest stadium in the NFL in about a decade. Power was shut off at the old stadium on May 1st, 2026. Heavy equipment arrived the next day. Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz confirmed demolition started sooner than expected. Once the seat removal phase was complete, crews moved so fast through the building that full structural demo kicked off almost immediately after. Excavators cut through concrete, containers filled with debris, steel beams got stripped along Abbott Road. 53 years of structure reduced to rubble by workers who probably got there at 7 in the morning, had coffee from a paper cup, and started pulling apart history like it was any other job. Because this is Buffalo. Nothing happens the way it's supposed to. Nothing gets the send-off it probably deserves. You just do the work, and you move on, and you show up again tomorrow. The first things crews pulled out weren't structural. They were sacred. Seats, goalposts, hundreds of section signs, all harvested and stored before a single exterior wall came down. The company doing it is Collectible Exchange, run by a man named Brandon Steiner. If you know the world of sports memorabilia, you know that name. He's done this before. Old Yankee Stadium, the cathedral of baseball, where Ruth and Gehrig and DiMaggio had played. Texas Stadium in Irving, where the Cowboys played for 38 years under that famous hole in the roof. Madison Square Garden's renovation. The man knows the difference between a structure and a shrine. He knows that what he's really doing isn't demolition, it's preservation in a different form. He walked the floors of the old Highmark and said, "You want to cry? It's a little sad because I know what's transpired in this stadium. The love, the connection, the family. It's almost a religious experience." This man personally oversaw the demolition of Yankee Stadium, 27 World Series championships, Ruth's called shot, Gehrig's farewell speech, and Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park made him emotional, a place that never won a championship. Think about that for a second. That tells you something about what this building meant. Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas personally signed some of the seats before they went to auction. They didn't do it from a distance or through an agent. They walked back in, sat down, picked up markers, and signed seat after seat after seat, like they were saying goodbye to the building themselves. A single seat was priced at $549, a pair at $649.99. Both sold out almost immediately. The turf was next. Steiner said he expected to sell a decent amount and was stunned when the entire supply sold out completely. The entire field, every square foot, gone. Right now, somewhere across Western New York, someone has a piece of that field in their backyard. Hundreds of people. They're planting flowers around it, growing grass over it, having barbecues on top of it. The same field where Frank Reich stood in the third quarter with a 32-point deficit and somehow didn't lose. The same field Thurman Thomas crossed for touchdowns. The same field where Bruce Smith sacked quarterbacks in the cold November air. Now it's in someone's garden in Cheektowaga. And then there is the item nobody anticipated generating this level of demand. The restroom troughs from Highmark Stadium. 35 of them. High demand. Fan interest described as intense. Bills Mafia is buying the bathroom infrastructure from a demolished football stadium and putting it in their homes, hanging it in their garages, installing it in their tailgate sheds. If you don't understand that, you've never experienced a Bills Mafia tailgate. You need to understand the tailgate to understand the trough. In the parking lots before games, a man named Pinto Ron, real name Ron Grazala, showed up in his beat-up 1980 Ford Pinto and ran a tailgate operation that became legendary across the entire NFL. He started in the 1980s when he was just a guy with an old car and a grill and too much mustard. By the time the stadium was closing, ESPN was covering him. His tailgate included bowling ball shots, literally drinking from a bowling ball with holes drilled in it, ketchup and mustard showers poured on himself, and burgers grilled on the hood of the car. The man became an institution. He became the embodiment of what Bills Mafia actually is. People who are completely committed, aggressively creative, and completely unbothered by what anyone else thinks of them. Tables get broken, buses get jumped off of, RVs get scaled like mountaineering walls. The restroom troughs going into homes makes complete and total sense in that context. Now here's the part that anchors all of it. January 3rd, 1993. Bills trailing the Houston Oilers 35-3 in the third quarter of an AFC wildcard playoff game. Jim Kelly was injured and sitting on the sideline. Thurman Thomas had walked off at halftime with a hip injury. Cornelius Bennett was also out. The starting quarterback, the best running back, and a cornerstone of the defense. All gone. Backup quarterback Frank Reich was in. Reich had previously engineered the largest comeback in college football history at Maryland in 1984, coming back from 31 points down against Miami. Almost nobody in that stadium knew that. Almost nobody anywhere knew that. Thousands of fans left at halftime, got in their cars, drove home in the cold, because 35-3 at halftime with your quarterback injured is not a situation you stick around for in January in Buffalo. Some of them were already back at their houses watching on television when the comeback started. Some of them actually tried scaling the stadium walls to get back in. That happened. People were literally trying to break into a football game they had just walked out of. Frank Reich threw 4 touchdown passes. Don Beebe scored. Andre Reed scored 3 times, each one bringing the stadium back to life, section by section. The noise rising into something physically different from regular game noise. That was disbelief turned into sound. Steve Christie kicked a 32-yard field goal in overtime, and the Bills won 41-38, the largest comeback in NFL playoff history. 32 points, still the record 33 years later. Every year since, some team has gotten close. None of them have gotten there. That record was set in Orchard Park, New York in January 1993, in a building that is currently being dismantled by excavators on Abbott Road. That's what this is really about. The concrete and the steel were just the container. What mattered was what happened inside. Beyond the comeback, this building absorbed decades of ordinary Buffalo winters that never felt ordinary to the people who were there. It absorbed the grief of Wide Right, a moment so painful it got its own proper noun in this city. It absorbed 4 January losses on the biggest stage in the sport, and somehow kept filling up the following September. It held the version of this fan base that was young and hopeful in the 1970s, the version that was riding high in the early 1990s, the version that spent the 2000s wondering if it would ever get back, and the version that finally started believing again in recent years. Every one of those versions sat in the same seats, walked the same concourses, stood in front of those same restroom troughs. The stadium also shaped the identity of a city in ways that are hard to quantify. Buffalo is not a glamour market. It doesn't have the population of New York or the weather of Miami or the economic engine of Chicago. What it has is a stubborn, almost defiant civic pride. And for 53 years, a significant piece of that pride lived out on Abbott Road in Orchard Park. The Bills weren't just a football team. They were proof that the city was still here, still loud, still showing up. When the rest of the country wrote Buffalo off, and parts of the country spent decades doing exactly that, the stadium kept filling up. 70,000 people every Sunday saying the same thing without saying a word. The final game of the 2025 regular season against the New York Jets was the last game ever played there. The Bills wore their Super Bowl-era red helmets one final time. Red helmets, white jerseys, the whole throwback look. Standing on that field, it looked like 1993 again. The Goo Goo Dolls' Iris played as the tribute video rolled across the scoreboard. The Goo Goo Dolls are from Buffalo. Of course they are. 70,000 fans sang every word. A song about wanting to be known, wanting to be seen, wanting to matter, sung in unison in a building that had held them for 53 years. There wasn't a section in that place that wasn't on its feet. People had driven hours for that game. People who had moved away from Buffalo years ago came back for it. Season ticket holders who had held the same seats for 3 decades sat in them one last time and tried to memorize the feeling. The way the light looked coming off the field in December. The specific sound of that crowd when something big happened. The cold that got into your bones by the 3rd quarter and stayed there until you got back to your car. These are the things you can't buy at auction. These are the things that don't fit in a container on Abbott Road. Longtime season ticket holder Michael Bunt stood outside during Demolition and said, "I grew up in this building, and just seeing it being taken apart, you knew it was going to happen, but it's just wild to see in person." Another fan, Erica Dombrowski, put it simply, "Sad to see it come down, but on the other hand, it's a new era. Sad but optimistic. Grieving but already looking forward." That's the most Bills sentence ever said out loud. That's been the Bills sentence for basically 30 years. 4 Super Bowl losses, decades of heartbreak, and the fan base just keeps showing up. Full demolition is scheduled to be complete by March 2027. The land gets leveled and used for parking for now, with the club leaving the door open to further commercial development around the new stadium site. The new Highmark Stadium, same name, new address, directly across the street, seats 62,000 people, fewer than the old one at its peak capacity of over 71,000. But it has a heated partial roof, which matters in Buffalo in January when the wind comes off Lake Erie and makes 20 degrees feel like -10. Natural grass, 4K video boards behind both end zones. All the things a modern NFL stadium is supposed to have. It cost 100 times more than the original building. $2.2 billion versus $22 million. For the same city, the same fan base, the same cold winters. And across the street, through the fence, you can watch the old one come down while you're walking into the new one. The past and the present occupying the same block simultaneously. One building being born while the other is reduced to rubble. 53 years of memory getting hauled away in containers, while 62,000 people settle into new seats and try to make new ones. That view through the fence might be the most Buffalo thing that has ever existed. A city that never fully lets go, watching its own history get dismantled from the parking lot of its own future. A city that never fully lets go, watching its own history get dismantled from the parking lot of its own future. 5 names in 53 years. Rich Stadium, Ralph Wilson Stadium, renamed in 2014 to honor the team's founding owner, who held on to this franchise through every lean year and every heartbreak, and died that same year at 95. New Era Field, a name almost nobody used. Bills Stadium, stripped to its simplest form when the naming rights lapsed. Highmark Stadium, one fan base through all of it. The names changed, the people in the seats didn't. The building was never really the point, it was just where the thing happened. And what happened there? The comeback, the 4 straight Super Bowls, Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, the Goo Goo Dolls playing Iris while 70,000 people sang in the cold. That doesn't live in the concrete. It lives in the people who were there. It lives in the stories they told their kids. It lives in the season ticket holder who sat in the same section for 30 years every Sunday. It lives in the parking lot where Pinto Ron grilled burgers on the hood of a Ford Pinto while pouring mustard on himself. It lives in every person who drove home at halftime on January 3rd, 1993, and then sprinted back to their television set. And now, pieces of it live in backyards across Western New York. In the turf squares people are treating like something precious, because they are. In the assigned seats in living rooms. In the goalposts that somebody is absolutely going to figure out how to mount in a garage in Amherst. In the restroom troughs. Yes, the restroom troughs, installed in man caves from Orchard Park to Niagara Falls. Because Bill's Mafia decided that if the building was going away, they were taking every last piece of it with them. That's the thing about a fan base that has absorbed this much heartbreak over this many decades. They don't romanticize. They don't need the moment to be pretty or the ending to be clean. They just want to hold on to it, however they can, whatever form that takes. A seat, a square of turf, a stainless steel trough from a stadium bathroom. It doesn't matter. It's theirs. The old Highmark Stadium is being pulled apart seat by seat on Abbott Road, and Bill's Mafia bought the seats and the field and the bathroom infrastructure because that's exactly who they are. The greatest comeback in NFL history happened inside those walls. A fan base that has absorbed more heartbreak than almost any other in professional sports kept showing up, and will keep showing up across the street, in the new building, in January, in the cold, in the wind off the lake, because that's what they do. That's all they've ever done. Drop your best Highmark memory in the comments. Where were you during the comeback? What was your section? Who did you sit with? Subscribe if you want more stories about what happens when legendary places actually disappear and what the people who love them do with the pieces.